this is Daniel Danger, and you're listening to the Master of One podcast. You can find me on Instagram at Tiny Media Empire, or Twitter at Tiny Media Empire, or just Googling Daniel Danger.
Welcome to this Sandbox episode of the Master of One podcast, part 2 for this week. This week we talk to pop culture art connoisseur, printmaker, designer, and illustrator, Andrew Heath. I'm Andrew, your Master of Art and Design.
I'm Patrick, your Master of Television and Film.
And I'm Luke, your Master of Toys and Games.
So shuffle your Rolodex of 80s film knowledge, because it's time to get rolling.
Did you see what the Klopex are doing?
So for this Sandbox episode, we are excited to talk to somebody whose work really inhabits all of what we know and love. It is deeply inspired by the pop culture scene. We are talking to pop culture artist, designer, and illustrator, Mr. Andrew Heath. Welcome him to the show.
Andrew.
Hello.
What's up, man?
Not much. How's it going with you guys?
Good.
Just hanging out.
Better now that we're talking to you. Can I just jump in and say there are dozens of us. That print that you just posted recently, Andrew and I, the other Andrew, I realize this is confusing within the first 30 seconds.
This literally never happens.
We are both huge Arrested Development fans. So that's like the only thing I've been fixated on the whole time leading up to this interview. So
he's been just looking at Hot Pants the entire time waiting to talk to you.
It's such a good show. Why wouldn't people make things about Arrested Development, right?
Right. I feel the exact same way. When we're done recording, I'll show you some of my stuff.
Because they can make things about Ghostbusters instead. I'm just saying.
I'll show you my Hot
which
Pants
he
as
also
soon as we're
does.
done.
Exactly. So before we get too deep in the weeds here, let's, for those people who are out there and haven't quite yet heard of Mr. Andrew Heath, tell everybody who you are, what you do. Give us the Wikipedia page about you.
The Wikipedia page. My name's Andrew Heath. I'm a designer and illustrator, although we've covered that already. I live in Lexington, Kentucky, which is pretty central to the state. I've been doing design for like 7 years, pop culture art for probably like 5, but I've been doing art my entire life, as far as I can remember. I travel around, do conventions, I do freelance design for companies, gallery shows, just whatever comes my way.
You are a man about the world. And so as we've been gearing up since we started talking to you a little while ago, you and I have been conversing a little bit on the back end. That's a weird way of saying that, but we've just been talking offline. And one thing that I've noticed that we'll dive deeper into later, I think we'll start getting into some nitty gritty with it, but you are all over the place. So you seems like you are really putting out the hustle. So talk to us a little bit about your upbringing. Like what brought you to the stage now where you are constantly putting work out, constantly displaying your work, constantly on, constantly out in the community, getting your stuff out there. What is it that drives that? Give us a little bit of your history.
Oh, man, I guess I've always had like that business kind of feel, like always wanted to start stuff, and just growing up, always was making art. I didn't really know until later on, like till my senior year in high school, like graphic design was a thing, and then later on, like pop culture art's a thing. But I worked at a greeting card company in college for like 3 years, and it was a really, really small company, like 15 people. So I kind of got to see like the inner workings of like a business, and like I consider myself like pretty good at business, and I think that's where I got a lot of that. I didn't learn any of that in school, but they kind of showed me the ropes and just kind of grew from there. Once there was a local convention in town, and I was like, hey, I'll give that a try, and it just kind of grew from there.
So, is there a specific piece, like when you say I'm, kind of good at business, and I picked it up? Like what's the specific piece? Is it that you've been, good at communicating clearly with people, or you've been good at making sure that you are bringing in more money than you're putting out, or what specifically do you think has helped you do that well?
I think I'm just really good at marketing myself, like especially as far as the pop culture. Like you brought up Arrested Development. Like that's not something that a lot of people, tackle, but like it's super popular. And I only make things that I'm really, really, really into, because if, I know a ton of people that just make it because the money's there. I only make things that like I'm into, so that way I can give it good justice and like get out there, like make something that people dig.
Yeah.
So I want to know a little bit about your. So you've mentioned already that you're heavy into graphic design. You're heavy into. You only like to do the things that you're really into. But so I want to just paint a picture for everybody who's listening and isn't involved in this phone call. We're looking at you right now, and behind you is quite a impressive array of artwork. In fact, is that Harry Potter piece over there? Is that an Ollie Moss?
Yes.
Okay, so you've got Ollie Moss back there, you've got Dave Pirelli back there, you've got Tom Whalen, and those are just the ones that we can see in this tiny little screen. You are a connoisseur of artwork. What is it that drives you to not only create pop culture work and enjoy pop culture work, but to also consume it and be a part of that community?
I mean, it's just what I grew up with. I mean, I was born in the 80s. Well, I was born in 89. And then through the 90s, we did like a lot of yard sale stuff. So we got like all the stuff from the 80s. So that's just like I was totally immersed in it. And I mean, I just grew up with TV and all movies and games and stuff. And it just kind of stuck with me. And I guess like as far as those guys, I mean, obviously like they're inspirations to me. And I mean, when I got into this, I had no idea that pop culture art was a thing. And like, you know, Dave Pirillo and Tom Whalen and Ollie Moss, like I saw that and I was like, oh my gosh, like I want to be like them, you know?
Yeah.
I think that's what probably, especially after you said how long you've been doing this, that's actually probably what strikes me the most is that you still want to surround yourself with it. That sounds a bit weird, but there's a lot of people that I think that it is work and they start associating it with being work. And so they kind of want to put it out of their sight a little bit and maybe protect that home environment or something like that. But I think you kind of look and sound exactly like the people that you're marketing to, which I think is going to help you. Like that would help you really well because you're on that exact same level and you're connecting with them. So are you specifically looking for people that are like you, that kind of fit in those niches and stuff? Or are you also trying to kind of, you know, make a new enthusiast, you know, like draw someone over to the pop culture side or convince them of its worth?
You know, I think a little bit of both. I mean, like when I'm at convention, a lot of people have like the same kind of stuff, and I try to be really well-rounded. I mean, like I do stuff that's video games, comics, movies, just everything.
Right.
And I think that, just a little bit of both. Like I want to hit the people that are into it already, and then other people are like, oh wow, what's this? Or like they'll just stand there because like a lot of the stuff that I do is like really subtle, or like they don't know what it is until they just stare at it for a minute, or like, you know, they'll just like stand there and just stare, and like they're bound to find something that they're into, and if not, like they can really appreciate it and they're like, oh, I like that one.
Right. So you said earlier, because you create only the things that you really care about so you can do it justice. How does that affect your business? Because you said there's a lot of people that do just like the popular thing to get that like quick money. How do you, just picking the things that you like, that really mean something, how do you stay busy? How do you stay in business? Because at some point, doesn't that kind of start to fall off or get hard to come up with something?
Usually what I'll do, like the stuff that I have right now, like the screen printed stuff, this is the first time I've worked with screen prints, and it's like, I would consider those like my top things. And when I come up with ideas, like I'll write down everything, have an idea, and just like go with it. But I mean, like the idea is just, as long as I like do research and think about it, like the ideas keep coming. And as far as keeping it fresh for me, and like, you know, you mentioned people that just do stuff to do stuff. I was talking to a buddy a couple weekends ago, and he had a Steven Universe something, and I didn't watch that. And I was like, hey man, how's Steven Universe? And he's like, I don't know, I haven't seen it. I'm like, so I like to, like when people come and look at my stuff, I like to talk to them about it.
Right.
Like I like to hold conversations and be able to keep up with them, or like with the work. If I know a lot about it, I can put a lot into it. Because some of these things, people are like, that's my favorite show, but like I have no idea what that is. Like some of them are like really, really subtle.
So how do you take that idea of creating for things you care about? How do you take that into client work? So like on your site, you have listed as past clients like H&R Block and I'm scrolling through your site right now. You like U.S. Bank. You have these kind of like more corporate clients. Like, how do you put yourself in that mindset, or how do you approach those clients? The same.
To be honest, I'm sorry.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
To be honest, like a lot of those, I mean, they approach me, like they see my pop culture stuff and they're like, hey, we're really into this. Like, do something like that. But like when it comes down to it, like working with their stuff, I mean, it's obviously not like pop culture influence. I just keep it with like my same style and try to make it something in my style that they would really be into.
Cool.
So let me ask a follow-up to what you were just saying a second ago. When you talk about the idea of doing something that you love so that when people come to your booth and they admire your work, or they're buying the work, or they're considering buying your work and they're looking at it, you have a point of connection there. You have something where the two of you can make a connection on that. You could argue that that's just because it makes it more fun for you, but I think that's a super strategic business move. A person is much more likely to buy something that connects with them if the person who they're buying it from and they can support is also connected to that. It becomes like a second layer of reason for why they should own that piece now that they've made that connection with you. Do you ever think about it in those terms, or is it just because you like talking about the things you like?
I think I just like talking about the things that I like. I'm like listening to you say that. I'm like, man, he's right. But like, yeah, it makes perfect sense. I mean, I have people who like post on Instagram who bought something like, bought this from so-and-so, like super great dude, blah, 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 talked and, you know, yada, yada. So, I mean, I think that helps. But yeah, I just, like, I love this stuff so much. I just like talking about it. And like, even if it's like, I grew up with it, you know, I'm not a huge comic book reader, but I know a lot about it. And like, even if people come up and start talking about something that like I'm not like super into, I can still keep up, you know, and be like, oh, hey, this and that. So,
okay, I want to get I want to try to build some more context around this, because if I look through some of your projects and how many pieces you're putting out, it seems like you make 100 pieces a week. So help me understand, like, how much work are you putting out? Like, how often are you releasing a new piece?
So when I first started doing this, I did about 20 a year for 4 years. And it varied. I mean, like the first year it was 20, like second year it'd be 18. It'd kind of be between 15 and 20. But I'd really try and stick with that. I'd do 20 and then I'd tour with it through the year. About midway through the year, 20 more, and release them the next year. But the new thing that I'm doing now, like I used to have digital prints. I've completely cut that out. All I offer is limited edition screen prints, and I worked like my butt off all last year. So from January to December, I was just constantly working. I put like a ton of work and thought into them, and like I just released them this January. So I have 27 new designs at the beginning of 2017 that I'm going to tour with. Okay, so when you say you tour with them, this is like a conference or convention like sequence. How many events are you at during the year? I try to do 20. I've done a little bit more, but like 20 is like the minimum. I'm going to start like looking to be in like 20 to 25.
Okay, so how? Because here's the thing. Like, I mean, I know that question could have been worded so much more eloquently, and I could have eased into it with a transition and all the things that a professional would do. But
we're not.
But I'm just going to cut to the chase. How in the world do you do that? Because I look at you, and I've been following you now for probably 6 months, maybe a little bit longer than that. And the one thing that I noticed, and I was telling the guys during our prep conversation, was I'm so intrigued by how frequently you are around, and you're putting yourself out there, and you are in the community. To say 20 as a minimum, that's crazy. I mean, that seems like it's almost a full time. It's literally every other weekend, just about. Yeah. You are of the year. You are at a convention. How do you do that?
Well, I do conventions and freelance design like full time. Like that's my job. The conventions, obviously, I do more of because once the busy part of the season will be like 6 conventions in a row, and I obviously can't like really dive into any freelance like that, but. Yeah, it's full time. I would say on average I do at least try to do 3 a month. Like January through March is pretty slow, but like right now I'm fixing to do like a ton in a row. It's exhausting, but it's fun, man. Like, you guys have been to comic shows before, right?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. They're fun.
blast.
They're exhausting, but fun.
So I want to know.
I like going. I imagine a
let's-
booth would be just
Well,
so much.
Exactly. So that's what I want to know. Let's get real. Let's just get real hard hitting here.
Let's do
How
it.
do you make money? And legitimately, how are you making money when you're paying for at least 20 booth spaces throughout the year? And when I look at your stuff, it's not like you're sharing it with other people, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have your own setup, and it's a nice looking setup. How are you making money when you're having to pay for travel? Like, does every conference pay itself off and then some, or does it overall, as the year is concerned, it pays itself off? Like, how does that work logistically?
The tables aren't too expensive. I mean, they can range from $100 to the higher end, like 600. Some of the bigger ones, I don't do those too often, are like 1,200, 1,500. But I mean, they pay themselves off. I mean, you go to these shows and people are into it. They dig it. I mean, yeah, it's good. And like especially about my stuff. You said you guys have been to shows before. Like, I think my stuff stands out.
Sure.
And it's definitely different because a lot of this stuff that you go and see, it's comic book art, and comic book art's cool, and not to like bash on them, but like you don't want to. It's not hangable. I like to make something that's a little more like a mix of pop culture and like I guess fine art. Something that you can hang up and
Sure.
Not be too big of a nerd.
I mean, you're definitely taking after Waylon in that regard.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
That's the style that you're driving after.
But you
Go ahead,
also said that you stay away from the digital prints now. So I'm guessing these are all screen printed. Is this like giclée quality?
Yeah, they're all limited edition, all hand signed and numbered. It's like a thick 100-pound paper, and that's something that you don't really see too often at the shows either. So,
Sure.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because I was gonna say I guess I'm very surprised because it seems to me that the pop culture stuff, I can see how it do well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure how many people that buy pop culture art necessarily want to drop a lot of money for it, right? Because if most of the people you're appealing to are like 20 years old, 22 years old, something like that, they're not necessarily like, this isn't some 60-year-old couple that wants to buy a painting and hang it in their dining room, right? So Is this completely just a quantity game? Is like that the idea of like I'm just going to move a lot of product?
That's what it was with the digital stuff. I mean, the prices were lower, the markup was higher, and I mean, they just move super fast. With the screen printed stuff, I wanted to, I guess, better myself, if that makes sense. Like, I just wanted to step up my game and just offer something so that no one else was, make the work nicer, make it more special. And like you mentioned before, I guess my target audience is me.
Right.
This is my motto: make one for me and sell the rest.
Sure.
So like, I'll make something that I'm super into, like I love it. I'm like, this is awesome. And then, I have one, and then I'll sell the rest. And I think that there's a lot more people that are into this stuff than like you would think. And like obviously right now I'm not too far into the year with my screen printed stuff. Like I think I'm on my 7th show, and I'm not even like my biggest show yet. And it's definitely different from the digital prints, but like there's still like a demand for it, and I think it's going to turn out to be pretty good.
So talk to me a little bit. We had Jason Aaron on. I mean, gosh, it's been like a year and a half or so ago.
Yeah.
And you have on there that you did some stuff for Back in Time. What did you do?
I did the logo, and
Cool.
I did a Kickstarter shirt design of the DeLorean controller, and then I had an old Back to the Future design that I did, and I kind of worked it up for them where it had like Out of Time on, and they gave that away at Comic-Con screening, I think.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. That's that was a cool project to work on. I imagine it was
Yeah,
really
yeah,
cool
for sure.
as a Back to the Future fan. From my perspective, that documentary was incredible. So to be able to work on that project seems like it would be great.
Yeah, it was pretty cool, and like it's another thing. I do these shows, and that's where probably 90% of my clients come from. Because I met him up in Cleveland, I guess, 2 years ago, and he stopped by. Or no. the producer stopped by, Lee Leshin stopped by for a minute, and he was like, "Hey, I really like your stuff. Love to work with you," and walked away. It was like super quick, and then it turned into that. So can't really complain about that.
Yeah. So moving on to the next iteration of stuff you do, you've designed for some games, some card games and stuff. So maybe give us an idea of how those came about, and then what it was like designing for a board game or a card game, and how that's different than what you normally do.
Well, again, they approached me at a convention.
Cool.
If you got to think, like, at these conventions, I have all my work up, so like everybody can see, passing out business cards, and like, it turns into stuff. Sometimes it doesn't. But I met them, Looney Labs. They made Flux.
Yeah.
I don't know if you guys are familiar with that.
It's such a good
I
game.
think I'm familiar with that little mom and pop game that has 15,000 versions now,
Well,
probably.
Like I tell some people, and they're like, "I've never heard of it," so I'm like, "Wah wah." But you guys know
I worked
it.
on Flux, and they're like, "Is that like Monopoly?"
There you go. But I met them in DC a couple years ago, and they hired me to do Just Desserts. They had been working on that for like 10 years.
Yeah.
I was up for the artwork for it.
Yeah.
And the way that they did it, it was kind of like a, hey, submit some artwork. Let's see what it looks like. And then they passed on mine and went with someone else. They went with the artist of Lumberjanes. I don't know if you're familiar with that.
Okay.
But I ended up doing all the design work for it. And it's built into a relationship where I've done 2 more games with them. I just finished up my first Flux game with them called Chemistry Flux, which is coming out next month. So I'm pretty pumped about that. Yeah.
It looks so. I'm looking at the retro lunacy, like you have it on your website. That's the one that's getting ready to come out.
No, that one's already out.
Okay.
Yeah, Chemistry Flux. It should be on there. It's like below.
Oh, I see it. It's like right below that. Yeah, it's got the little.
So now, like, I sell those at the shows, and it doesn't say Flux on them except on like really tiny on the retro lunacy.
Yeah.
So people who know Flux don't really know that that's Flux. So I'm like super pumped to have like an actual Flux game. So I'm like, yes. It's Flux.
Yeah.
Okay, so with all the people you're talking to and building the relationships and everything, awesome. I imagine you have to have some great, convention stories, like some great convention interactions. Are there any that stand out to you of just like highlights or just super like over the top moments?
Do you want like a weird one or like
a
killer one?
Man.
Patrick likes it. The weirder, the better.
All right, so here's one, and this is all my fault. So so I'm at SuperCon in Miami. I don't know if you guys have ever been to Miami. It's the worst place ever.
Yes.
Don't go to Miami.
I keep telling.
Yes, it's the worst place I've ever been. Don't go to Miami. So, anyways, we were on the second floor of this convention center, and I'm sitting at my table. And this kid comes up with a backpack. He's a little younger. He's probably like 13 or 14. And so we're talking. And like getting back to what I like to do is like I like to talk to these guys. And so he's like wanting to buy like a Transformers print that I did. I'm a huge Transformers fan. It's probably like Ghostbusters, Transformers. So I'm like talking to him about Transformers. And then he's like brings up Beast Wars. I'm like, oh yeah? I know about Beast Wars. So we start talking about Beast Wars. This kid sits down in front of my booth and like puts his hands on like the booth and just keeps talking to me. I'm like, all right, this is fine. So 45 minutes in, this kid's still there. We're talking Transformers, and he starts
cost you $18,000 in sales. Great.
Yeah, probably. So then he starts to pull out like action figures and like starts sitting them on my table and like showing me his action figure collection. And I was like, oh my gosh. But so yeah, that was a pretty weird one. And
I've made a terrible mistake.
Exactly. And
I
it was fine.
Regret this decision.
Yeah, it was fine, but you're right. Like I can't just sit there and talk action figures and Transformers all day when I'm like slinging paper. But it was pretty funny.
Especially
like,
when he's not buying.
Oh no, no, for sure.
Where were his parents?
Good question. But they probably just got away from him too. But like I don't even remember how like I'm sure I like weaseled like, hey man, kind of weaseled it away, but I don't remember even how I got rid of him. But that was a pretty weird one.
He's not with you now, is he?
No.
He's been playing with them in the background this whole time.
He's with the cat.
Yeah.
All right, so yeah, he's in the closet.
Yeah,
so
there you go.
here's what I want to know. So other than the fact that you are all over the place all the time and you are just hustling and you are getting your work out there, you have just this wide array of products that you've worked with, not the least of which are your enamel pins. And I have the fortunate luck. It's not luck. You said it wasn't luck at all. You sent it to me, but I have a handful of your pins, and they're super great. They're super fun. How do you decide, and how would you recommend somebody going through the process of deciding what kinds of products you should put out in the world that connect with your brand and connect with your audience?
That's a good question. I mean, it all gets back to
Thanks.
I do what I love. I make what I'm into. Like, for example, I bought like I've been buying the Mike Mitchell hats. I really dig the hats, and I've never been a hat guy. And, you know, I bought a couple of his hats, and I'm like, man, I really love cheeseburgers. I want a cheeseburger hat.
Yeah.
So I searched for one, couldn't find one. I was like, well, I'll make my own. I'll keep one, and then I'll sell the rest. So,
Nice.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I got into the pins from Clark Orr. He made that that Back to the Future Ghostbusters logo one.
Yeah.
Which blew my mind. I found that, like, I wanted it so bad, like, he was out of them, and he was restocking. I've set an alarm on my phone to, like, go back and gotta buy it. But I emailed him, and I was like, hey, man, where do you get your pins made? And, you know, I got into the pins, and I have, like, 8 or 10 of them now. And, I mean, people dig them, you know. I love them.
You are kind of Clark Orion in feature. Like, I could see the two of you, like, if you said, hey, he's my brother, I could totally see that, by the way.
I haven't heard that one. Someone said I look like a young Aaron Draplin not too long ago, and I was like, all right.
Yeah, I can see that.
All right, well, your beard's got a little baby beard compared to his
for sure.
man mountaining facial monstrosity.
You need a bit more orange.
Yeah, I feel like beard and glasses are so much of a thing now. You could say that about anybody. It's like, hey, you guys are brothers.
Yeah, but your demeanor and stuff and everything all totally it plays into your Clark Oried-edness. So it's fine. It's a word, Luke. Just chill.
Cool. Yep.
So we're getting ready to round the bases into our final questions. But before we do that, I just want to ask you what if you could only work in one with one property. And this property would be licensed, so this would be directly from the studio, directly from whatever. What property would that be, and why?
I would say Ghostbusters, but I already did Ghostbusters stuff, like licensed. Mm-hmm. So I don't know what would be next. Transformers?
Okay.
Maybe? Okay. Alien? I really dig Alien. But yeah, Ghostbusters would be my number one. I'd do more Ghostbusters stuff. Yeah. Is that a good answer?
That's a great answer. It's funny because I'm looking at this and I'm not seeing in your store any even fan art of Transformers.
Dude, so yeah, I know, but like I couldn't think of like a killer idea. You know, I think that's on my list for something to do next for sure.
Nice.
Like, I try to make something that no one else has done before and make it, like, unique, and I put, like, a lot of thought into it, so I don't want to just, you know, there it is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that makes sense. You want to do it justice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm going to ask my final question, and then Patrick and Luke can take it from there. Are you to this place where your work has been out there long enough, you've been putting it out there, and you've been talking with stuff? Are you... to this place where you are seeking out gallery work? And if so, what is it that you do differently to hit gallery work or to connect with galleries to be in their like official gallery releases and things like that?
I've done my fair share of gallery stuff, and if anything, I'm kind of easing away from that.
Okay.
Overall, I really enjoyed it, but it wasn't I don't want to say it was a bad experience, but it wasn't good enough for me to keep, you know, going back. Like I've done over like a dozen Gallery 1988 shows. I've done Bottleneck Gallery, Hero Complex Gallery, and I mean they're really fun to do. And I think the main thing that I wanted from those was to just be like say that I did them and have them on my like rap sheet. And a lot of great things came from it, like the licensed Ghostbuster stuff, licensed Adventure Time stuff. But I don't really seek anything out anymore. I think I'm just kind of like cutting ties there. But as far as like what's different, I guess, I mean, they give you like the list of everything, that like, hey, here's the list of shows. Let us know which ones you want to be a part. And I guess I just approach them the same way that I approach all my other stuff. Just take time to think of a killer idea, something else that no one else is going to do.
Yeah.
This is not a question. It's just a follow-up statement. A friend of mine, Jason, who lives in town, he just redid his entire office, and he had me over to just see it. It's really cool. He built all of his own shelves, and he's got like maybe 2, maybe 3 pieces of artwork on the wall. One of them is your Death Star with the X-wing flying.
Oh, nice.
I'm like, we're getting ready to talk to him on the show.
That's a good one. Oh my god.
So anyway, your work is killer, and people are seeing
Thanks,
it.
man.
So anyway,
Thanks.
all right, I'll let somebody else take it.
I will take it. This is kind of 2 different pieces, so just stay with me. Assuming that all of your artwork, like each one was a different child, and you could only keep one child, which would it be?
Oh my gosh. Are you able to kill children off like that? Is that how that works?
No.
Yeah, because these are paper children. But
man.
Do you have a favorite piece?
My favorite? Oh, that's so hard. I really dig my Ninja Turtles one that I did. It turned out like exactly how I wanted. That's probably up there. The Ghostbusters one behind that. But I don't know. That's a real tough one.
Okay.
Why did you ask me that?
No, I know. Well, I do want to stay in that same vein. So what I'm curious is when you're working on a project, how do you actually like find the end of it? Because I think it's very easy to want to iterate and then iterate some more and iterate some more. So how do you finally lay everything down and say it is complete?
That's a good question too. I mean, some of them, like if the idea is like perfect, I can knock them out pretty quick. I mean, as long as they look like the little sketch that I got, but I don't know, man. Like, I guess you just know, you know what I mean? Like you look at it, you're like, it's complete. Like some of these things, like I work on for so long, and like I'll finish it, and I'll just be doing colors, and like my wife helps too. I'll be like, hey, what do you think of this? And it gets back to that thing where I make stuff for me.
Yeah. Usually
I'll ask people like, hey, what do you think of this? And they'll be like, that's cool, or I like that one, not that one. I'll be like, I don't care what you think. I'm going with what I want to do, I usually just stick
really
to my
aggressive.
Yeah. Well, I asked for opinions, but I don't listen to them that often, which is kind of silly. But I mean, it just helps to get some kind of feedback. But yeah. When it's done, you'll know.
Sure. No, that's fair. I think that's fair. Okay, so my final question is completely off the subject of your artwork. What's your favorite burger?
My favorite burger.
Ooh.
Oh my gosh.
Like if you could make the perfect burger, what's your perfect burger?
Oh my gosh. Why are you asking? You guys are like bringing out some tough questions.
This is your tough question. I love it. No, it's great.
Dude,
no.
it's like there's so many burgers. It's like
the art's the
which
easy part.
child do you want to kill? I'm like, what? My favorite burger. Oh man, I don't know, dude. I eat so many burgers with so much different crap on them.
Sure.
If we had to just get down to it, like fast, let's narrow it down, like fast food burgers.
Okay.
So I was thinking about this the other day. A Wendy's Junior Bacon Cheeseburger
over a single.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Oh,
Okay. Okay.
It's a killer burger. Like
it's
all the
great.
stuff on, like the lettuce,
the
the tomato,
bacon,
like
the
super
bacon makes
fresh. It's so good. But I mean, like if you're talking like a big, like unhinge your jaw burger,
an artisan burger or something.
an artisan burger, I cannot think of it. Like I don't know, man.
Okay.
That's a really tough question.
Let's morph this to a one you can answer.
Let's do
What's
it.
your burger cheese? What's the
Pepper
cheese?
Jack.
All right.
Pepper Jack.
Cool.
Okay, here's a good one. I really dig hot, like spicy burgers, like stuff with jalapenos.
Okay.
Red Robin has the
Yes.
Burn and Love burger.
Yeah.
Yes.
That thing's delicious.
Sure.
I love that one. Like
Nice.
those jalapeno coins are delicious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love
the
that
little
you're even
deep-fried
on
jalapenos.
brand calling them jalapeno coins.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Dude, I know these things.
This is
Why
a
wouldn't
this is
you
a
know?
man
They're so good.
who, more than art, he loves a good burger. I think.
doesn't?
I think that he's
Seriously.
he's on point with that. All right, so tell everybody where they can find you, where they can support what you're doing, anything that's coming up that we need to be aware of, all that jazz.
You can find me on the website at www.andrew-heath.com. Instagram is @AndrewHeathDesign, and Facebook is /AndrewHeathDesign, although I use Instagram more than Facebook because Facebook has kind of become garbage. Have you guys noticed that?
Yep.
Especially for businesses. Like, it's just pointless.
Unless you're paying.
Unless you're paying, but even then it's still pointless.
Facebook.
It's like, I'll pay $40 to get, like, a fourth of my audience.
Right.
It's like,
We
why?
should take this moment to say this episode is brought to you by the good folks at Facebook. We love their
love 'em.
product, and
We
we
love
never
'em.
say. Okay, so there's nothing specific coming up. No shows, like no cons that you're gonna be at that people should check you out at.
Yeah, my schedule's on my website. I'm gonna be at Planet Comic Con in Kansas City this weekend. I'll have a break. Then I'll be in Motor City Comic Con in Detroit. I'll be in Houston Comic Palooza. Dude, there's so many. I can't, like 25. I can't even keep up with them myself. Like, yeah, just the events are on my website.
Do you
Check them out.
Do you ever make it out to San Antonio, this area?
No, I try to keep everything East Coast. I guess the farthest
perfect.
west.
That's great.
Yeah, the farthest. Well, no, I'm coming. No, yeah, I haven't been down to. Is there any good conventions in San Antonio?
No.
Nope.
No.
Well,
What's down there?
okay.
What's down there?
We'll talk offline. We'll talk offline.
All right.
PAX.
That's awesome, man. Well, thank you so much for taking a few minutes to chat with us. Would you help us figure out what we're talking about next week by picking some tokens?
Absolutely.
All right, well, that's it for the interview portion. Up next, we're going to draw some tokens. Every week we draw tokens to figure out exactly what we're going to be talking about the next week. And so, since Andrew is here, I'm just going to have him do it. So I've got these tokens. I'm shuffling them up. You can see they're very real. They have categories listed on them. They're face down. I'm shuffling them up. Give you a number between 1 and 3. And you'll be picking for Patrick. Go ahead.
1.
Patrick's got art and design. There you go, buddy. Okay. Patrick was going to clap, and then he decided not to, and it just all became a thing. All right, so give me a number between 1 and 2, and you'll be picking for me.
2.
I got toys and games. That means, Luke, you've got TV and film. Congratulations.
Awesome.
You did a great job. Well, that's it for this episode. We're super grateful to Andrew for being here. You can find this episode as well as a ton of other interviews on mof1podcast.com/archive. There are so many people on there at this point who have talked to us, and their work is killer, and they are amazing. Go check out those episodes. You can also, while you're there, buy the M of One Podcast Artist Coloring Book. We have a handful left. I'm showing Andrew here because he's here and he wants to see. They are an amazing piece with so many incredibly talented artists. You do not want to miss out on this. They're only $10. Go online before they are gone. You can also, while you're on there, you can subscribe to I guess it's not subscribing. You would join our Slack community. Go to mof1podcast.com/Slack, and we have an incredible lineup of artists in there as well, about 200 people day in and day out who connect on art and design and business practices and best practices. It's a really great community of people who are really all in there just to encourage one another and show amazing work. So join that community there. Then go to iTunes, where you can subscribe. This show can come to you twice a week, every week, if you allow it to. I guess that's what you would do.
I mean, that's fair.
You'd allow it? Yeah. And then once you've done that, you subscribe. Nope. Once you've done that, you rate and review. When you rate and review, it helps us a ton. It doesn't cost you any money, costs you very little time, but it helps us out tremendously. And we will read it on the air. That's right, Patrick, right?
That is right.
You can also support the show on Patreon. Go to patreon.com/mof1podcast, and you can become a patron for as little as $1. The blooper level is at $5. So for the cost of a cup of coffee each month, you can help us with the show, and you can get some fun bloopers and some fun extra things just for supporting the show. I think that's all there is for now. We have individual social medias. I'm at Andrew Sale with 3s instead of E's. Patrick.
The Great Padsby, that's with 2 A's.
And Luke.
Luke Gall on Instagram and Twitter.
And tell everybody again, Andrew, where they can find you.
Instagram at Andrew Heath Design.
Awesome. I think we're going to get out of here. I'm Andrew.
I'm Patrick.
I'm Luke.
And I'm Andrew.
Peace out.
Bye.
Hold on to your butts.
Who are you going to call?
was for something else. I was just finishing something else. We're fine.